The last thing I remember was running full speed along the upper deck, chased by something that didn't make a sound. The chase. I know cruise ships are supposed to be fun. Unlimited food, drinks, sunshine, pool parties. But the middle of the ocean at night is something else, especially if you're alone. This happened on a cruise I took last summer, a week-long trip through the Caribbean with my extended family. We'd all gone in on tickets for my grandma's 70th. It was supposed to be this big, fun bonding experience, and for the most part, it was. But there's something I saw on that ship that I still can't explain, something I wish I hadn't seen. It started the third night of the cruise. Most people had gone to bed. I couldn't sleep. The room was too hot, and the pull-out couch they gave me was basically a sheet of plywood. So I snuck up to the top deck to scroll on my phone where the Wi-Fi was slightly less terrible. It was just past 1 a.m. The deck was completely empty. No music, no crew, just the hum of the engines and the black ocean stretching in every direction. If you've never seen it, it's tough to describe. The everyday world has ambient lighting from streetlights, cars, lighted signs, but in the middle of the ocean at night, besides the ship lights, there's nothing but pure blackness. I found a bench near the railing and sat down. It was darker than I expected. Just a few dim bulbs overhead and nothing else. But my phone screen was bright enough to make out shapes. That's when I saw him. Across the deck, near the closed-off splash pad, someone was standing completely still. He was just inside the shadows, but I could see his eyes. They were glowing red. Not reflecting, not catching light, glowing like red coals in a fire. The rest of his face was hidden, but those eyes never blinked. They never shifted. They were staring directly at me. I froze. My first thought was that it had to be some kind of trick, a phone screen reflection, or maybe one of those LED glasses people wear as a joke. But as I stared, I realized it wasn't a joke. He wasn't holding anything, wasn't moving, just standing there, waiting. I looked down at my phone for half a second to flip on the camera. When I looked back, he was gone. I left the deck immediately and convinced myself I was overtired. Light reflections, cruise haze, whatever. Until it happened again. 2 nights later, I was walking back from the bar. It was just after midnight, and I decided to stop by the railing to look at the stars. Same deck, different section. I stood there a while, just listening to the waves and the faint music coming from below. Then I turned to leave, and he was there again, at the far end of the running track. Same height, same stillness, same red eyes. Even though he wasn't under any light, I could see them clearly, glowing out from the darkness. Not like flashlights, more like something alive. He didn't move, didn't speak, but something in me knew he was waiting. I turned and walked fast, didn't run, but I could feel my body trying to. I didn't tell anyone, not even my cousins. They'd just laugh or say I had one too many drinks. The final night of the cruise is when it all came to a head. It was just before 1 a.m. I had decided earlier to avoid the track deck, but the final party night of the cruise had left me distracted and a little buzzed. I did not stick with my plan. The track loops the entire ship, a wide open path with nowhere to hide, just a railing on one side and glass windows into the ship on the other. I started walking clockwise. A few minutes later, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned. No one. I kept walking. Then I heard it again. Soft footsteps. Faster this time. When I looked back, I saw him. Full sprint, running at me. His face still hidden in shadow, but those red eyes were locked on mine. And he wasn't making a sound. I ran. Hard. Heart pounding. I could hear him keeping pace with me. First 10 feet behind, then 9, then 8. No matter how hard I ran, he was gaining on me. Every turn of the track, I hoped someone else would be there, some crew member, anyone. But there was nothing, just the dim ship lights, the waves bounding off the hull below, and the inky blackness on all sides. My lungs burned and my legs ached. I had a stitch in my side that felt like a dagger. Red eyes kept gaining on me, no matter how hard I tried. I could hear him 5 feet behind me, then 4, then 3. Suddenly I rounded a corner and crashed into 2 couples who had just come up on deck. I fell hard, but they helped me up. I turned and looked behind me. Empty deck, no footsteps, no one in sight. I leaned against the wall and wheezed as I slowly regained my breath. The chase was over. I never saw that man again. We docked the next morning, but I still dream about those red eyes. Still wake up sweating, afraid I'll look out the window and see them in the dark. Whatever I saw on that ship, it wasn't random. It was intentional. It was meant for me. And I know someday, when I'm alone in the dark, it's going to find me again. The envelope was just sitting there, black as ink, sealed with the eye of Providence. I never opened it. I just got in my car and drove because I knew what it meant. They had found me again. Secret level. I used to be a cruise ship DJ. If you've never worked on a cruise ship, you should know 2 things. The money's decent, and the isolation will mess with your head if you're not careful. That's probably why I liked it. I could do my sets at night, then vanish for hours at a time. No one asked questions. No one noticed anything. This story happened on a Caribbean sailing in early July, summer peak season. We were packed with sunburned passengers sipping rum out of coconuts, strutting around the upper decks in swimsuits like it was a floating Vegas. We'd hit Cozumel midweek, my favorite port. I remember thinking it looked like a postcard you could walk through, but it's what happened after Cozumel that I can't forget, and that I'll never forgive myself for investigating. It started on night 4. I just finished my second set in the nightclub, the late one, and I was taking the forward crew elevator to deck 4 where my cabin was. Most guests never see that part of the ship. Crew elevators are separate from passenger ones, quieter, narrower, just steel walls and faded labels. That night, I noticed something that wasn't there before. At the bottom of the button panel, beneath deck 1, was a new button. Not a number, no letters, just a symbol, the Eye of Providence, a triangle with an eye in the center. I'd worked enough contracts to know that was not standard. I even pressed the side of it to see if it was a sticker. It wasn't. It was a real button, and it was lit. Before I could second guess myself, I tapped it. The elevator paused for a beat, then started descending, way past deck 1. It moved slower than usual, like something was resisting. Then it stopped. The doors opened, and I swear I have never felt cold like that in the tropics. What I saw wasn't a normal ship corridor. It wasn't even a maintenance level. It was black. The walls, the floor, the ceiling, everything was matte black, like it had been painted to absorb light. There were doors, maybe a dozen of them, stretching into the darkness. Each had a different symbol carved into it. No names, just shapes, stars, serpents, sigils I didn't recognize. The lights overhead were dim and red, like the emergency backup lighting. And somewhere behind one of the doors, I heard banging. Not rhythmic, not mechanical, just one desperate thud at a time, like someone weakly hitting the wall. I didn't get out of the elevator. The doors stayed open for 10 seconds, then they closed, and the elevator took me back to my deck like nothing happened. I told myself it was a glitch, a weird service level, maybe a crew training prank. Then came the next night. Cozumel Day. I got up early that afternoon, walked the beach, ate tacos under a palm tree. It felt perfect. That night, I was back in the club for the evening set. It was packed. Theme night, I think. Everyone screaming Pitbull lyrics. Flashing lights. Pure chaos. By 2:30 a.m., I was exhausted, but I still couldn't get that button out of my head, so I went back to the forward crew elevator. I pressed it again. Same slow descent. Same shutter. Same hallway. But this time, I stepped out. The cold hit me immediately, like stepping into a freezer. The banging was still coming from the first door, but now a second door had a new sound. Scratching. It was slow, persistent, like fingernails dragging down the inside of metal. I walked a few steps in. The air felt thicker, like I was breathing fog. As I passed a third door, the floor seemed to vibrate, just faintly, like there was a generator somewhere beneath me. It wasn't until I saw the fourth door, marked with a perfect black triangle, that something inside me screamed to turn around. I did, and the elevator doors were already open, waiting. I ran back and left without looking behind me. The third time I went was the biggest mistake of my life. It was the final formal night. Guests were drunk, dressed up, and ready to dance. The club stayed open later than usual, which meant I didn't get off until after 3 a.m. I should have gone to bed. Instead, I went back to the elevator, and once again, back down to that secret level. This time, the hallway was alive. The banging was louder. The scratching was frantic. And now there was something worse. Crying. A woman, 2 doors down from where I'd stood before. She was sobbing, gut-wrenching, helpless. It sounded like she'd been crying for hours. I whispered, "Are you okay?" And instantly, every single sound stopped. All at once. Silence. Then, from the furthest end of the hallway, I heard footsteps, fast, barefoot, rushing toward me. I bolted. The elevator was open. I dove in. The doors closed just before the footsteps reached me. I could feel them through the metal. That should have been the end. But I tried to tell someone, a bartender I'd worked with, my supervisor, even a fellow DJ. Each time they listened politely, then gave different answers. Haven't heard of that button. Maybe it's part of the service decks. Could have been a light reflection. But each one finished with the exact same words. I think you must be mistaken. Same phrasing, same tone, like it was rehearsed. On disembarkation day, I ran into an old friend, a crew security officer. He was just boarding for his next contract. I told him everything. He didn't laugh, didn't dismiss me. We walked to the elevator together. He saw the button. He examined it closely for a minute and looked at me. "I'm going to the office. Stay right here." He walked into the security office just down the corridor. The door closed. A minute passed. Then I heard raised voices, then yelling, then silence. After maybe 5 minutes, he walked back out. He didn't look at me, just started walking towards his cabin. "Wait," I said. "What about the secret level?" He stopped, turned his head slightly and said, "We've been friends a long time. I think you are mistaken." Then kept walking. I quit that week. I moved to Las Vegas, got a residency at a big nightclub. I thought I'd finally put the cruise nightmare behind me, until the night I got home and found my front door unlocked. Nothing was missing, but sitting on the counter was a black envelope, sealed with the eye of Providence. I didn't touch it. I backed out slowly, got in my car, and drove. And now I'm telling you this so you'll remember. If you're ever on an elevator and see a button with a symbol instead of a number, don't press it. And if someone else does, run.